But Amanda, sometimes, just because you have a special gift, that doesn't mean that, you have a spectrum or you have just because you see things differently, it doesn't mean that you're on the spectrum or you.
This isn't related to simply how I see things. It's related to how my brain functions.
Yes. But just because your brain functions differently from, say, mine.
Yes.
So you feel just because your brain functions differently that's what caused it, or there's a clinical diagnosis that
there are clinical diagnoses.
For you.
Yes, there are clinical diagnoses for autism. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
When you take.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Bird 91. Listen, I'm going to be on here for about an hour. So, I thought we'll have a conversation about the situation. Listen, hey, look, the Amanda Seales situation. Let me just say this. I think I'm going to say a couple of things. Amanda Seales is a very intelligent, bright, resourceful, purposeful, a woman who can execute, lead, who can be creative, and has the ability to change generations to come, because I really do believe that she has a gift, and that's where I think the problem starts, and I think that's where we're gonna have that conversation, right? I really do believe that Amanda Seales has the best interest of the Black community. I don't think she's necessarily trying to leech off the community per se. I think she always gives good lectures and tries to really be somebody who's on the forefront of pushing things, right? And I think I had to separate Amanda Seales, the activist, from Amanda Seales, a person in a relationship. And actually, when you realize is that a lot of people who become activists sometimes have very poor relational skills, right? People that are very gifted in the area of, bringing war and pushing the war front forward and pushing a community forward sometimes have very poor relational skills. And the reason being is because their mind is more focused on pushing on the war front, that they neglect the aspect of relational aspects. I think in all honesty, when I watched the interview, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be too hard on her, but what I will say is, for anybody watching, I want to be very, very clear. I actually like Amanda Seales. I think she's pretty cool when it comes to, like I said, the community and pushing the Black community forward. She's very, very much somebody who is an intellect who wants to push the community forward with the way that she thinks about things. So that I don't have to question her. I do think what's happened though is she doesn't see herself relationally. I think she doesn't understand how she actually comes across relationally. And that's what's going to cause her the biggest issue, because you have to nurture and you have to be able to maintain relationships at the very top where she's at. And the fact that she doesn't realize her tone, her words, the energy, the way she carries herself, that it actually leads you to being disliked by people. See, when people say they don't like you from the very jump, look, it could be a case of the fact that, in all honesty, it could be that, that you are being hated on. It can be. Look, you know what it is? God can sometimes place you in positions where, you're going to suffer. But after a while, we have to ask this question. Even Joseph, who his parents didn't like, who his siblings didn't like him. Even Joseph, who his siblings didn't even like him. When he got to Egypt, there was favor on his life. Oh, please. You cannot be hated by everybody. You cannot, I'm saying to you, you cannot be hated by everybody. Even Joseph, who his brothers hated him. There was there was Reuben who came back and was advocating for him. Judah was advocating for him. So you can't tell me that no one's really advocating for you. That everybody that you encounter seems to end up becoming an enemy of yours. At that point, then we have to look at you a little bit differently. Right? And I do feel like Amanda Seales sometimes at points, what happens is that she gets locked into victimhood. She gets locked into victimhood. And then there are always situations that she's always being done hard by. But the reality is, you're not just being done hard by white people, you're being hard done by Black people too. Can we actually deep that? You're not just being done by white people, you're being hard done by Black people too. The Black people are doing you dirty too. right? So at some point, you may have to look at yourself and say, what am I contributing towards a situation? If every single conversation seems to be about, I do nothing and I get hated on, I'm going to tell you straight, listen, the devil doesn't need to defeat people that are already defeated. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, if every single time you go and come there, it doesn't matter what you do, you've got problems, I'm going to have to start asking you what kind of prayers we need to pray. Because this is spiritual. Yeah, if everywhere you go, you end up having a problem and you did nothing, we need to start praying right now. We need to start praying. Be still and let go. Be still and let go. You know, we have to start singing some worship songs because clearly you are going through something spiritual wherever you go, right? Where's the favor of the Lord upon your life? Because at this point, every single time, you know, and do you know what really kind of really brought it to light? What really brought it to light was the fact that after the Club Shay Shay interview, how did she turn on Shay? That told me everything I need to know. At the end, when you finished the interview with Shay, you still had energy to slew him in your own life. You still had energy to kind of draw him out of in your own life. And that told me everything to know. You bite the hand that feeds you. You always do. You don't care who you do it to. You show no honor. And that is a problem. When you show no honor, you will always have a problem. Now, listen, let me be honest with you. There are 2 points in the interview, autism and the racism aspect where he challenged her. Now, I'll be honest with you. I get why he challenged her on the racism aspect, but because obviously I understand, you know, usually doesn't necessarily do that all the way. I get that, right? So I can understand why she felt some type of way about him questioning her about the racism. But can I be honest with you? That racist aspect too, I would have questioned her too. Because I'm so sorry. How you going to tell me it's racism and you are the only black kid in the class, which I get, and it could be, but then I'm going to ask question two. Why are you correcting your teacher? Do you think you're going to get away with that? No, can we be honest with you? What black kid thinks that you've grown up in a Caribbean house? A Caribbean house. And you're telling me that you corrected a teacher in an all-white school? It might be racism, but it also might be downright you're rude and disrespectful. Yeah? You're rude and disrespectful. Correcting teachers. There's no the law of the book of power of power. One of the laws of power, I think is number 48 or 40. It is never outshine the master. When you are the student, you never outshine the master. When you do, you cause issues. You are the student. How dare you correct the teacher? So that's going to happen. So I'm not saying it wasn't racism. It could have been very much racism. But here's my thing. Did any other little kid call out the teacher? Did any other kid correct the teacher? And when I say correct the teacher, I'm not talking about correcting the teacher. I'm not talking about correcting the teacher. I'm talking about contextually in front of the whole class. Right? And then we labeled it as, I was trying to defend the student. I said, ma'am. I do get it. You challenge authority. But you're going to have to realize that John the Baptist also challenged authority. And at a point, it was Herod and the girl that he had now come into contact with, right? Herodes's daughter or whatever. She asked for the head of John the Baptist. Let me tell you this now. When you are somebody, okay, when you are somebody who's willing to challenge the authority, you must be also willing to die. It's going to tell you the truth. Okay? Like, if you're willing to challenge all the powers that be ready to die. You see, that is why God says, and this is why Jesus Christ says, I don't do anything except what I saw the Father do. And that is why when Jesus came, he did not try to liberate the Jews from the Romans. Come on, let's talk about it. Okay, you want me to go down? I'm going to go about it, okay? And I've got Sean in the background, so I'm going to bring him on, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you, okay? Here's the most obvious thing, right? Is that Jesus Christ had a mission to do, okay? When he came, he didn't come to remove the Jews from the Romans. He could have, but he had a mission. Now, here's what I'm trying to say to you is this, right? He only went where the Father asked him to go. The battle that he was facing, he only went to what he was called to. See, as a soldier, underneath the authority of the general, I only go where you call me to. I can't fight every battle. And if I'm called to it, then by all means, God will provide the provisions that's needed, and he will lay out the route for me to go and do what I got to do. Now, all I'm saying is in a situation, all right, is that when you are willing to challenge all these authorities, my question is, who called you and who sent you? Moses said to God, listen, I am going before Pharaoh. Who should I say sent me? Now, I don't want to turn this into a Bible thing, but you know how I am now. Like, it's just, God just be speaking to me and just be hitting me. You know what I'm saying to you? Who sent me? Who should I say sent me? And the God says, listen, say that I am sent you. Yeah? The same one that Jesus Christ says to the Pharisees and the Sadducees later on. I am. Okay? Before Abraham, I am. Now, I'm saying this to say, you can't fight every battle. You can't. Right? You can't. So when you are challenging a teacher as a student, you must also be as wise as a snake and as gentle as a dove. See, when you think you can do whatever you want to do, that's where you're going to encounter warfare, right? So I'm not saying you can't challenge. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have a pattern of behavior. In the way you do it, it rubs people the wrong way and causes issues. Okay? Now, as a young kid, correcting a teacher in front of the whole entire class, it's probably not just what you said, it's probably how you said it. Right? It's probably not just what you said, it's also probably how you said. And because you said it in a particular way, it caused that teacher to also feel some type of way. So, all right, you're a little kid trying to tell me what to do. All right. All right. Cool. All right, cool. All right, cool. That's what we're going to do. Oh, okay. All right. Now, here's my thing. I'm not saying that she can't do these things. I'm not saying she can't challenge. I'm not telling her to be quiet. I'm not saying, you should stay in your corner. What I'm telling you is, don't complain if you're always going to use a sledgehammer to break everything break everything around you. Don't complain. And that's very true, Eves. That's very true. That's very, very true. Very, very true. That's very, very true. Can't complain about correcting others and get corrected and you're like, oh, I can't be corrected. No, you can be corrected. And you were corrected in public just like you corrected a teacher. And you see how painful it is? You see how painful it is? Do you see how frustrating it is when you correct somebody right there and then? It's frustrating. So just like you ran straight to racism, it might have been. It probably was going to be racism. But you understand that also at the same time. I don't know, from a black perspective, I just don't know anybody correcting a teacher think they're going to get away with it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to say that. You know what I'm saying to you, right? My other thing is, before I get Sean on, is that the autism situation, right, was crazy to me. Because, baby, let's just play a little bit of clip and then you'll see.
The test, you see, when you take the test, you're like, hold up. I've been thinking my whole life that this was a problem. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that I have to doodle, I have to draw all the time. I have to be doing things all the time to be stimulated. It's literally called stimming. Okay. Like the fact that when I'm a baby, I have to rock, like in a child pose, like literally rock. And my mom would be like, why is she doing that? We find out later, this is stimming. This is her literally dealing with her anxiety in a self-soothing way. Okay. The fact that even...
Okay, so her talking about her being autistic, right? I honestly, look, I'm not gonna be mad at it. Listen, I get it. Some of us are going to, I get that some people are going to literally self-diagnose, right? My issue is that they asked you a direct question, okay? They asked you a direct question. You said you've been diagnosed, and clearly Shay knew something because he decided to question it, right? I don't know why he decided to question it, but clearly he knew something, so he decided to question it. And you said you've been diagnosed. Now, why did you feel to lie? If you're not ashamed and you know you've been you know that you are autistic, why did you need to lie? That tells me there's something else behind that. Right? Because if you just say, listen, hey, look, I've not been diagnosed. No, I've not been diagnosed. And then later on, she goes to blame Shay for bringing it up and says, shame on him basically for bringing it up. And, why would he question it? I'm like, okay, but babe, why are you complaining about him asking you? Because you're the one that said you are autistic. Do you know what I'm saying to you? You said you're autistic. So I was a little bit confused by that. But there was a lot more. The Issa Rae situation. I get it. And I do feel, to be fair, I do also, she made some really good points, right? And it's something I've also said. I know some people might not like this, right? She's also said, about the fact that she gets hated upon because of being. Some people have said that they hated her because she's light skinned. I'll be honest with you. I've seen both. I've seen dark skinned people go at light skinned people. I've seen light skinned people go at dark skinned people. Right? I've seen it on both sides. So I'm not gonna discredit her perspective about her saying that people have said things about her being light skinned and coming at her. I believe that's true. Right? Because I've seen it happen. Right, so there are things that I know she said that are true. I understand that, So there's some good points on that point, right? So yeah, may see her as the friend you can't talk to and tell things potentially, potentially. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Easter situation was a bit political. I was just like, baby, if no one's really coming out to you, and no one's really saying anything to back you, do you know that you may be rubbing people up the wrong way? You just may be rubbing people up the wrong way, and you may need to look at it. And there's a clip I wanted to play. Let me see if I can get it for you guys, and I'll get Sean to chip in as well. There's a clip I wanted to play, and I wanted to show something. Someone asked about tone, right? Tone and wording is so important. I know some people don't like to say it. Oh, it should just accept it how you want to say it. If I told you to shut up or to keep quiet, would you take offense to it? No. Let's just be honest. Would you? I'm saying the same thing. I am telling you the same. So when people tell me that words don't matter, or it's the truth, isn't it? I'm going to tell you now. If I told you to your face, shut your mouth.
Yes, y'all. This is the Amanda Seals.
Versus keep quiet.
Amanda Seals, and
Hold on. Would you feel some type of way? Would you feel disrespected? Would you feel like I was going over the limit by telling you to shut up? And I'm putting emphasis on it, because remember, tone don't mean nothing. It don't matter what you say. We're tone police and black women. Remember? Right? Oh, we don't like when black people say things. No, it's not that. Your tone, keep quiet is different from keep quiet. Right? Words matter, tone matters, delivery matters, timing matters, season matters, context matters. Your delivery matters. A good joke can be made at a bad time and it'll be funny because it was a good timing of the joke and the joke was executed very well. But the timing was poor. But the time of the season might not be the most appropriate season. Right? Like I said, if somebody passes away and you make a joke, but you made a joke in good time and good jest and delivered it correctly, everyone starts cracking up. Someone else makes a joke and it's at a bad time and everyone goes, what the frick is wrong with you? Right? So tone matters, delivery matters, the context matters, the time and the season, it matters. All of that matters. So I'm going to show you a little clip and then we'll get Sean to jump in for me. Yeah? Listen to this. This is interesting. This part is really interesting.
For another edition of I Be Knowing. So I did an interview on Club Shay Shay, and I don't know how I feel about it. I have a lot of feelings about it because I sat back and watched it, and as I was watching it, I can see why people don't like me, but I don't have any desire to change those things about me. But I can.
Let's pause it right there. First and foremost, she said, I can see why people don't like me, but I have no desire to change it. Well, then guess what? We're going to continue not liking you. Don't complain when they don't let you in, when you can see people don't like you and you don't want to change. This is what I'm talking about. The arrogance of it all is to sit there and tell us, well, I don't care why people don't like me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then expect people are going to be, oh, okay, well, you continue doing what you're doing then. Go continue then, innit? Like, we ain't going to invite you in. Don't complain when the likes of Issa don't invite you to the black spaces anymore, okay? We don't want to hear your complaints. But let's continue.
Can see it. Like, I'm just so deliberate when I speak. I'm so deliberate and I'm so unwavering. And I can see why folks would hear that and hear a sternness in it, like a rigidity in it that feels like someone being scolded. So like I talk like a cop, but I also talk like a teacher that wants you to learn. You know, like I talk like a parent, but then I also talk like a coach that really cares about you winning the game. And it ends up being perspective on how you receive that. And you know, while I was watching it, I had to do my own work to not let the negative thoughts that are always kind of just fluttering in.
Now, listen to what she just said. All the positions that she chose that her voice sounds like are people of authoritative positions. None of these grant for very good relational aspects, right? When you're dealing with relational in terms of relating to people, trying to maintain relationships with people, if you come across sounding like a policeman or a teacher or a coach, you are going to sound like you don't actually have relational aspect skills with people. Okay? So you have to understand, when I'm trying to be relational, not when I'm teaching, not when I'm on a pulpit, not when I'm on a platform, but my relational skills, when I'm trying to talk to people, I don't come across as a teacher. I don't come across as a policeman. I don't come across as a coach when I'm talking to you relationally. Relationally. I can do it on my YouTube, but as a relationally, I don't talk to you like a coach. If I did, what kind of relationship would we have? A coach and someone who's a coachee. That's the whole point. It's a power, and instantly that puts us into a power dynamic, right? There's a power dynamic. So instantly in that relationship, she's already put herself in a power dynamic where she's above you. That's where the arrogance comes from. That's where people start feeling like, you know what? I don't like your energy. And guess what? You walk in that energy. That's why people see you and they're like, I don't like your energy. Because you walk in it. So they see you before you even open your mouth. That's why I don't like your energy. You're too stuck up. You think you're better than everybody else. Yes, you do think you're better than everybody else because you have a tone of somebody who thinks they're better than everybody else. You've put yourself on a pedestal, a policeman. He's not relational. He's an authoritative figure. A coach, he's an authoritative figure. A teacher, authoritative figure. Right? So, yeah, just a little something that she put there. And I think the last part, and then, yeah.
Around in my head waiting to get, you know, caught onto, I had to really let that go and lean into the uniqueness of like what I just described, like the different perspectives. Yeah. Because I think if all of us step back and watch ourselves, we will have critiques about ourselves. It's fascinating though, because majority of the people who would ever critique me, like they've never been interviewed and had to watch themselves, right? Or they've never even. Yeah,
that's a fact. That's a fact.
They've never been in a situation where they had to be questioned and then now like go back. You know what I mean? Like oftentimes like people may be questioned even in an insular space, right? Like you're questioned by people that you know, but it's private. And I think that there's just such a different experience when it's happening public, and I'm fearless about it, but it doesn't change like my feelings about it. So it ends up feeling a bit conflicted. But nonetheless, I just want to thank anybody who felt like they got something positive out the interview and felt the need to share it with me. It was a fascinating, watching myself deal with someone coming at me.
Yeah.
Like,
that's got.
Man, he barely came at you, baby. It was one. He barely came at you, man. I mean, he questioned you on two things, my G. The rest of the interview, he actually was on your side. I don't want to, like, she's creating a dynamic of us versus him. And what it caused also is that when people watched it, they ended up saying, Shay's unqualified. He's not intellectual enough. He's not smart enough to have some conversation. See, the very energy she carries, her warriors also carry too. They think that people are above them, like they're above people. Oh, Shay can't do this. It was unintellectual, And then when she came out and did what she did, suddenly all those conversations have gone out the window. No longer is he unintellectual. Actually, he was right for questioning her. See, there's too much worship of the fact that she's an intellectual, and she doesn't realize that life isn't just about intellect. It's about relationships. And if you're bad at relationships, it will show that you're bad at relationships. Anyway, let me get Sean on. Talk to me, Sean, bro. What are you saying, man? What's
Hey,
your thoughts,
bro.
Cap?
Yeah. I know we were kind of like chatting offline about this whole Amanda Seales thing, and I'm so conflicted because I've been I've followed her for so many years. I actually got a chance to see her in person during one of her comedy tours a few years back when she came to New York City. So, I really do like her, and I'm also conflicted by in watching the interview because I watched it before she had all of her opinions, and then I saw her opinions. I had mine as I was watching it, and I've watched Club Shay Shade's interviews too. I gotta be honest. I do feel like he did conduct this interview different than he did with other folks. And I think this is what I think. I think certain things, unless you're at a level, and Shannon Sharp is the old school kind of guy, in the context of he's not at a place where he is necessarily dealing with his unconscious bias. And I think that a lot of what we saw was just his unconscious bias showing out. I don't think he was intentionally trying to antagonize her or throw doubt into her stories, but he definitely didn't do that with a lot of the males that came on the show, and also with people that he considers his contemporaries, right? Because when Monique was on there, he didn't conduct it that way, because I think he looks at Monique as a peer, whether it's from an age, a station in life, somebody he can identify with. Whereas Amanda, he doesn't really identify with her. So it just caused some of his unconscious bias to show out as the way he picked apart at her questions. And I think also what a lot of people who follow her is she's got a master's in African American studies amongst and in hip hop, right? So somebody that is learned to that degree, they understand the nuances of race, and they can very clearly articulate race. And I think on her side, she just made blanket statements without really fully explaining it. Again, I follow her. So when she was telling that story of a child, I can too remember being in similar instances like that, where teachers have highlighted me and kind of called me out, or done things like that, and my mom has defended me. Now, I wasn't like openly correcting teachers per se, but I've had experiences where there were white teachers that you know um, did things to me, which at the time as a kid, I didn't have the language to call it racist, but my mom knew enough to know what was happening. So I guess part of my bias is I can understand and identify with some of the things that were playing out in the course of that interview.
I love the points you brought up. I'm going to add and slightly disagree with what you're going to say, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to disagree. I'm going to slightly disagree because I think people are also unaware of what energy they come into a room with. Having interviewed a lot of people, it's a bit like the Alexa situation for me, right? You can actually sense someone's energy is different, so that's why the interview becomes different, because there's a battle that happens between people when people come into a room in a particular way that you have to almost disarm that person. And by that disarming, certain things happen a little bit differently in the conversation, depending on how you come into the room, right? And I noticed something about when Amanda came into the room. The very first thing is her body language, right? Her body language when she came in the room was like this. When you are sitting like that, by the time she gets to the end of the interview, she's not sitting like that. At the end of the interview, she's actually like this because she's relaxed. So sometimes when you're interviewing somebody, you sense the energy you're gonna get from that person. So if you listen to the very beginning of the interview, he actually says, when I first came into the place, I wanted to give you a hug. And she was like, no, I couldn't give you a hug. I give you a handshake. That's already an issue. Then the second thing was when he gave her the big like plaudit and the big rousing at the very beginning. He was like, listen, she's this, and that. She was like, I can't believe you gave me that great beginning, da 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 da. Then it goes into the autism situation, right? And he asks about the autism. Okay, have you been diagnosed, right? And they had a conversation about that. And that's where it kind of, it's only that and the second point. Whenever I see, and I'm not saying you, Sean, per se, I'm just saying that whenever I've seen the interview, people's comments about Shay, they only point to two things that ever happened. And it was the autism, which everybody agrees with Shay anyway. And the second thing was actually the racism aspect. Other than that, he didn't really challenge her again. Do you know what I mean? But I definitely can agree with probably the bias that he may have. I don't know him like that background, so I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just going to say I'm just giving my 2 penny pence rather than disagree. Let me change my wording because my wording is incorrect. I'm not disagreeing with you, Sean. I'm adding an addition to say that potentially that he also was sensing her energy. That's why it seems different, because when you come into a room and you're like this and you're sitting on the edge of your chair, you're not giving me you're giving me a certain type of energy. You know what I'm saying to you? And so at that point, the person also responds to that particular energy as well. And they may, you also kind of have to kind of now find a way of disarming that conversation in a particular way. And so it's very interesting that when people say, oh, he conducted it differently. Yeah, because you came with a different energy. I can't conduct it the exact same way if you come into the room and you immediately if I'm going to give you a hug, bro, like imagine this, bro. Imagine you come into a room and I'm going to give you a hug and you say, nah, give me a handshake. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Energy different.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think that, but remember, we've talked about this before in
Yeah.
dating, in aspects. It's consent, right? And some people are not huggers. Some people have boundary issues, especially, a lot of people in the entertainment industry have some, little social quirks. So everybody doesn't feel warmed up to a hug. Now, again, I think there's a polite way to do it or not. I didn't see her. She's a brash person, and again, that's why I said I definitely acknowledge that I have a little bit of bias because I followed her for quite some time. I can see the error in her ways, and we'll get into some of that stuff where I really see like these are some things that I think are opportunities for her going forward, and just her lens at the way she sees criticism. But I don't think the hug thing, to me, it's like if you reach out to a hug and somebody's not receptive, you have to move on. And I think ultimately what Shannon Sharp is charged with doing, and that's anybody that's conducting an interview or you're hosting someone is in your home, it's up to you to make them feel comfortable. So I think if she's coming on to Shannon Sharp's show, it's up to him to get to know her and to be comfortable with her, do a little bit of research on her, and then kind of, win her over a little bit, gain her trust. So if she comes in a little edgy, I don't think you get to be edgy back. I think that makes for a very difficult conversation, because if your job as an interviewer is to get to know the person, to hear some things, to get some information, you want to appeal to the person that you're talking to. So I think she might have come in hot, but it's up to him, because it's his show, to now pivot and continue to work with her to make her feel comfortable so that she, opens up and that they're able to change course.
I would agree with that. That it is his duty to create a safe space for that person. I don't think he did not create a safe space for her. I think he did, because by the end of the conversation, she was out almost crying and laying back in her chair. She was comfortable. When she finished, that's when she decided to have her agenda after. I'm not saying that there's no blame on his part, by the way. And I'm not saying that I'm having a dialogue with you because I like the fact you're giving a different perspective. So I want to keep it on that plane, because we need different points of view. We don't have to always agree. But I think watching her in that scenario, it wasn't just the hug in itself that I'm talking about. There is a series of behaviors, right? So that's why I said the hug, it was a leaning forward in the body language, right? That I'm saying that sometimes you can sense an energy that causes tension. So what happens is people can be on edge. Not that they're going to be rude. I don't think she was even rude. I don't think he was rude. I don't think anybody was rude in that conversation. What I'm saying is that it can create an edge, an energy, a tension that people are on edge when they're talking, right? So it makes it easy to slip up or say something because really and truly now the conversation's got to a particular place because both people are a little bit defensive now because I'm not sure what you're saying. She's not sure what I'm saying. You're thinking about if I'm saying something else or whether you're saying something else, and that aspect. And so automatically people start feeling some type of way because they're trying to feel each other out. And that's why I'm saying that. And there's a part of the clip that I'll play as well, which is interesting because sometimes you can do everything you can to make someone feel comfortable, but their reality is they're trying to make you comfortable. How are you trying to make me feel comfortable in my own house? This is what he actually says. And that's why I was clocking. I was like, why are you trying to make me feel comfortable in my own house? Right? Why are you trying to make me feel comfortable in my own house? I'm trying to make you feel comfortable. And that's where I'm saying about the warfare that's happening. It's a power warfare. And so in the end, sometimes you get it wrong. And maybe he got part of it wrong in terms of maybe the challenge of the racism narrative. You know what I mean? Probably shouldn't have questioned it. If that's his style, not to question things, then yes. Then his thing. If his style is to question everything, then it doesn't really matter. He can question it. But if his style isn't that way, then yeah, I can see that maybe in that aspect there was a little bit of a change. I just want to play a little first clip and I'll let you go, Sean. Where they had this conversation about feeling comfortable. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, here we go. Yeah, hold on.
Intro, did I leave out anything?
That was the best intro I've ever had in my life.
You like that?
That's fabulous.
Because you was a little worried. I mean, when you came in, you was like,
Maybe I wasn't worried.
You was like,
oh, you don't know.
You're like, you're so formal. Why you be so?
First and foremost, she said she wasn't worried. He said you felt like you're a little bit worried. No, I wasn't worried. You just don't know me yet. Okay, let's go on.
Worried. That's me trying to welcome you. That's not me saying that's not
How
me.
you welcome me in my own house?
No, because I know that I have a lot of energy when I come into a space, and people will be like, "Oh, it's a lot of." So I have been trained over the years to try to make people feel comfortable.
Okay.
So that's what I'd be trying to do.
Well, I'm trying to make you feel comfortable. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
Normally when guests come on the show.
So was she comfortable? Yeah, she comfortable. But yeah, it's just but I'm hearing what you're saying as well, Sean. I'm just we're having that dialogue pushback in a sense. So go for it, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that Amanda also has to acknowledge that everybody's not going to get her. You know what I mean? And I think where her frustration may come from, and this is why I said I do believe she's neurodivergent or, on the spectrum. I 100% believe that, based on, what I've seen of her. And I think that probably one of the frustrating things, and she explained, that's one of the things that I took away that she explained is like, that's what she hyper focuses on, being understood. So for us, it and she goes out of her way to do things that from what it looks like to us is purposefully getting under people's skin or pushing people's buttons or coming off as though she's a know-it-all. And I think that's the part where there's got to be some work on her end. And she did a live on her Instagram maybe about a month ago before this interview came out, when she was getting all the flack from black press. And she was just saying, I'm on my journey. I'm trying to, navigate this part of accountability. And I think people like her struggle in that accountability space because they just want to be understood so bad. And for a good chunk of their lives, they haven't been understood. And she's well intentioned, just like you said. Like, the stuff that her advocacy for people of color. She's very outspoken about Palestine right now. So she's she knows that her heart is good, but it just goes back to what we've been talking about a lot: the intention versus the impact. And I don't think she can always see the impact of the words she says, how she says things, how she's able to take in feedback and criticism. And those, I think, for me, are her biggest opportunities, is that part of her to be able to, hey, like, hey, somebody said they don't like what you did. Instead of, just try to take a beat before you go straight in and defend yourself and try to make it right. You need to listen. And this is the one thing, and I'll end it here, is where for me I really struggled with her and understanding accountability. It's when she told the story when she was on the set of Insecure, and she referenced another black guy, and she was like, "Oh, you're a revolutionary N-word, right?" And he said to her, "Hey, listen, don't call me that." And she tried to defend it by saying, "Oh, well, we call people the N-word on set." And I thought I was giving him a compliment, but he said to you he didn't like it. And using the N word as an actor as part of a script is very different than you telling someone in real life that they are an N word. And as nice as you may have meant it, they didn't receive it that way. So I think that's the space I constantly seeing her struggle and navigating. How do I receive information that I thought was well intentioned, but really other people are seeing it as something that they don't like or hurtful?
I definitely hear that. I think she should go and get this diagnosis quick ASAP, because she probably is autistic. You know what I mean? And then we can give her some grace. You know what I mean? Like, because all these interactions that she talks about, like you're talking about that one, my one still goes back to the fact that she had 7 dorm mates who all hated on her. All 7? God damn! You mean you got there and seven, the perfect number of the Lord, 7 roommates are suddenly wanting to have a problem with you? And I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that people don't go into college, school, and people just don't like them, right? But it usually is a group, like the good, you know, say the popular group or whatever, or whatever. But you went there and immediately the first 7 people, don't like you. They just randomly hating on you. And that was like 1 or 2 times that she said that. 1 or 2 times, maybe even 3 times. She kind of said, I don't know why they hate on me. I don't know why they don't like me. I don't know why they did not like. And it's like, if you don't know why people don't like you, probably need to really go and dig a little bit deeper, and go and actually look at what's actually being said, because the people saying to you like they don't like you, your attitude is this or that. She's like, it's nothing to do with behavior. I was like, sis, I don't think you understand your energy. That's the problem. You don't realize that your attitude is a problem. The Jay says giving bad light skin energy. Your attitude's a problem, and that's where she doesn't realize. So it's not. And again, like I said, I think she's actually a great act. When it comes to activism, I don't think there's not many people that are as great as Amanda Seales. I think this is a powerful thing about life. Amanda Seales is actually, I think she's really great at her job when it comes to activism. Look, if I want somebody on my team to be activated for Black community issues, I want Amanda Seales. Because let me tell you this now, she's going to move that needle forward. But do I want her to do race relations? Probably not. She's going to have us in multiple wars before we even finish, right? So I think there's just a little bit of work that needs to be done in terms of interpersonal skills. I think there's interpersonal skills that need to be worked on. But as an activist, she's amazing. They're second to none. Her knowledge, her understanding, her ability to be an academic and to voice those thoughts and to, compile it in a particular way. Absolutely. But when it comes to relations, yeah, I'm gonna need her to work on that. You know what I mean? Because she gonna ruin herself by doing that, man. You know what I'm saying to you? Has she been in Martin Luther King's day? Oh, should have been revolutionary. I promise you that. But like I said, you have to understand your time and your season, and you have to know how to fight a particular war. And not all wars are fought the same. And people will need to understand there are different tools that are required for different jobs. And once you understand that, that's what the Bible says, be gentle as the dove, but as crafty as the snake. See, when I used to work in corporate, Sean, you worked in corporate, you know this as well, right? Being a Christian can be warfare. Before you know it, they've given you a lanyard that has rainbow colors on, saying to you, "Are you okay with the LGBTQ?" And then are you going to wear the lanyard? And you have to consider your thought process before you open your mouth, right? You want to say straight away, "I'm for the Lord. Ain't nobody wear no lanyard." Da, 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 da. You may want to stand in that position. But you have to realize that the warfare is very different to what it was 50 years ago. You can't just say that now, right? And someone might say, "Well, you're not being genuine. You're not being for the kingdom. You're not being fired up for the Lord." No, you're a fool if you're not a person who's going to be wise about the context of the situation you're in. Even Jesus spoke in parables, knowing who he was dealing with. When he spoke to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, did he always talk straight? No, sometimes. No, I shouldn't say that actually. What I mean like this: so when he spoke about the kingdom. Sorry, let me be very direct. So before someone quotes me and corrects me, when he spoke about the kingdom and about heaven, kingdom of heaven, and spoke about the things that were spiritual, he was in parables when he spoke in front of Pharisees and Sadducees. But when he was rebuking, he was very direct. "You brood of vipers, yeah, you've made his house a den of thieves." When he was rebuking, he was very direct. But when he was talking about the things of God, he was very parabolic, if you want to call it. It's not a real word, but anyway, you know what I mean? Because he understood, right? And so at points in time when they were asking him, "Are you God? Are you equating yourself to God?" He said, "Listen, before Abraham, I am what I am." You know what I'm saying to you? I am what I am. Right? You got to make of it what it is. Now he's directly comparing himself, but can you hold him to that? They did it at some point. They wanted to kill him after that, right? But again, when they wanted to crucify him, they were struggling for things to crucify him for, right? They were struggling, so they had to get him with the whole temple situation. Did you say you can break down the temple in 3 days and da da da? They were struggling for words to say to him before they crucified him, when they wanted to get him nailed, right? So what I'm trying to say to you is that you have to know that you have to be as gentle as a dove and be as crafty as a snake. And so what I want for our good sis Amanda is to learn how to be as gentle as the dove and as crafty as the snake when it comes to your message. Because as somebody said in the chat, now our whole conversation is not about the points that Amanda has made. And she actually made some good points. In those 3 hours, there were some really good points. But now the whole conversation is about, making it about the Shay didn't want to respect you about the racism situation, and you felt like you were disrespected, and then you felt like obviously he was contravening everything you said, and then it's become the fact that it's about autism, which you actually didn't necessarily tell the truth about, and now it's lost in translation. What is her message? If anything, she's actually further enhanced her reputation of she's too much. Which is a shame. Yeah, so it's interesting to see that point. You know what I mean? Go for it, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, what you were saying earlier too, like it's that, and I think that's where I see her struggle from somebody that has watched her. Like, I don't know her personally, but has just watched her, and I think it's that struggle of being well intentioned, wanting the best, but also being misunderstood, and and her frustrations with people not understanding her. And again, this is why I can understand, because I've been in rooms and places where people who have different degrees of neurodivergence or being on the spectrum, and some are very high functioning, and those are some, and then even the ones that are not as high functioning, there's a thread, and that common thread is it's a frustration with being misunderstood, and there's a certain aspect of that it's just not going to change. And I think that's what her therapy journey is going to have to be about, is her reckoning how she navigates the world and how the world receives her. And I saw some people say this in the chat. It's going to have to be about her just accepting the people that know you love you, and the whole world isn't going to get you, and that's just going to be the way it is, because there's certain aspects of her personality that can be that can rub somebody very much the wrong way. We've seen her do that with several people. We've seen the opportunities where it was with the publicist of Issa Rae, where there was a time where the woman wanted to speak to her, but she didn't want to speak to her, and vice versa. And then when it didn't work out the way she wanted it to, now she wished that things were different. And I think that is just a very hard part of it, of watching somebody like her. I don't think she's gonna go too far off from what we've seen. She's not gonna change. You know what I mean? The people that will get her, get her. I think telling her, "Oh, you just need to do that," that's easier said than done, because in our minds, our brain functions in a way that we can easily navigate the things that we want versus the things that are in the way of what we want, and we are able to better negotiate those terms. Where for someone like her, it's a very challenging thing for her mind to get to that point to be able to do that consistently. You're mute, coach. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't realize it. Yeah, no, no. Yeah, which is fair perspective. Like something a little bit more difficult on that aspect. If she is neurodivergent, because again, we don't know. We didn't. She hasn't got the diagnosis yet, but she says she is. So. But yeah, no, I can understand that it may be a little bit more difficult for her to take that on board. I don't know if she actually done the diagnosis. I did. Someone said that she went to do it recently, so I
She
don't
did
know.
a self test and actually did some research on that. You can actually you can ask yourself certain questions. It's just like very similar to how you'll say, I know I'm an avoidant, right? And you can check off a list of boxes by your behavior patterns and things that you do and how you react to experiences. You can do that self-assessment, and it does show up differently. So there's certain nuances to it. I'm nobody's clinician, I'm nobody's doctor, so
That's
I'm
fine.
not here trying to be an apologizer for Amanda, but I did enough research to know that there's just a certain skill assessment that you can do to say, hey, what are the odds? What are the odds that I'm showing up this way? And I'm telling you, you see the way she talks, unless she is just the best actress in the world. I mean, like better than all of them combined. You can see the way she says things multiple times, her real-time reactions, seeing her in person, where I've seen her literally in person, it just clicks and it makes sense. And some of the things like that I've started to do a little bit lately is question the things that we're always taught. And I think that's a level that Amanda operates at a very higher place. So some people just won't get it. But I think we just get so indoctrinated in, oh, I need a doctor to tell me this. I need somebody else to tell me this, where I don't know my body, right? I've seen it where women, my ex-wife almost died from an ectopic pregnancy, but her doctor ignored her. And women of color are at like astronomical rates. It doesn't even matter money, because Venus Williams, the same thing happened to her. She almost died in delivery because the doctors don't listen to us. So for me, I don't necessarily say, oh, because the doctor told me it's true, because a lot of times doctors don't listen to us. So I think it's just, it's not for everybody. Some people are like, listen, it's black, it's white. I need a doctor to tell me if I have this disorder. I need a doctor to tell me this. If this is wrong, I know this. I can tell you, for me personally, when I was diagnosed with cancer last year, the pain that I identified the doctor in terms of where it was, and thank God I went in as early as I did, was the exact place that tumor was residing inside of my colon and my upper chest. So I think we know our bodies, and we have intelligence, we have smarts, and we don't necessarily need to prescribe to a medical system to tell us something. So with her, I'm on her side about that. And I think that, unfortunately, in a short form conversation, what she said kind of made it seem like she went to the doctor and was diagnosed. However, she self-diagnosed.
I mean, I totally get that. And shout out to practitioner HER. How many of us have diagnosed our ex have an NPD? I hear it still. I really do. I definitely understand the point of view that you've convened, and you're right. We can definitely self-diagnose in certain situations, right? I am cautious, because someone just said it and I was going to say it. Neurodivergence is a very broad umbrella. Remember we were talking about, and I won't say any names, but remember we were talking about Ready to Love at there was a particular season when I interviewed a few people and I said, there's a few neurodivergent people. They're doing word salads. Their thinking is very incoherent. They're telling rambling stories. There was a particular season that I was interviewing Ready to Love people and I could see the neurodivergence in them, right? But I didn't say it on the live because, again, like I said, I'm not here to, diagnose anybody, right? But the reality of the situation is, in this situation, is that with Amanda, it is interesting that we are going to self-diagnose because when she was describing it on her other live, she was saying that, doctors don't take us seriously, which I totally get. But the experiment on autism, like she said, hasn't been done not much work has been done on autism because it was done primarily on little white boys. So how are we going to trust the self-diagnosis when it's on little white boys? Do you see that paradox that you're locked into? You're going to have to trust the system because you're using the system to actually prove your point that you are autistic. You wouldn't even know what autistic is until somebody did the actual experiment who was operating on little white boys, right? So in some sense, we're going to have to, at some point, learn to lean on the system. Because the very thing of autism came about those white boys in the century. Gynecology is one of those things where they were operating on black women, right? But we lean on that history. Unfortunately, it's a very nasty history, but we lean upon the doctors who have done that. And of course, we improve as time goes on. My thing is that I'm not saying that she can't self-diagnose. What I'm saying to you is that you telling us that you're that, I'm going to be like, I can understand why someone's going to say, well, I think you probably should. You probably should go and get a diagnosis because neurodivergence is a very large spectrum and it may be something else that's off. And you're saying it's autism, right? There's you know what I mean? There's also been times where people have had symptoms and gone to a doctor and the doctor's like, you're actually fine. And they realize actually you are fine, but you're experiencing some certain symptoms. So it's not to say that this is not to say what she, and this is why I'm saying about, again, her points are actually really good. It's not to say that black women aren't going into hospitals and not being heard and not being seen, and we are dying at certain issues. We had a situation here in UK which was very painful. One of the guys, his wife went into labor and she had certain pains and she was telling them and they weren't believing her. Right? And she actually passed away and it could have been prevented. We're not talking about those moments. We understand that those doctors don't believe us, don't listen to us, don't sometimes believe we're in pain and they treat us differently. I agree with that. I don't think we need to argue about that at all. In fact, we should get behind it on that. My issue is, now that point is lost because the point now becomes about your autism, which you said you diagnosed and you didn't diagnose. Right? You self-diagnosed. Instead of just saying, look, actually, I self-diagnosed myself. I'm yet to do an actual diagnosis by a doctor. Instead, what we're doing now is, you don't have to go to a doctor to prove it's right. What? No, we don't have to go to a doctor. No. Well, I'm not saying that doctors will always get it 100% right, but to make you're now trying to make your point about why you haven't gone to diagnose about the doctor. The doctor's not the issue. You're the issue. Because why wouldn't you go to the doctor and get a diagnosis? Oh, no, because, doctors don't really diagnose you properly. No, darling. Then you are also diagnosing yourself based on doctors' research. So how do you know even autistic even exists? How do you know it's not something else? We labeled it autistic. How do we know it's not something else? You have to trust somebody. So, just to say that point, is one itself. But I'm not saying that, again, that she's absolutely wrong. No, I'm saying that just a little bit of reword in there, but you're absolutely right. We have to trust our bodies too. We have to trust what we feel. If I feel it, I'm going to say it. You know what I mean? So,
I think she's a very challenging person. I'm not going to sit here.
I'm listening.
And pretend like everybody's going to get it, which is why my advice for someone like her, if she was a friend of mine, it would be, you know what? Keep working on yourself. Keep doing the work. You know, if there were areas like what I mentioned with the N word and stuff like that, where she said that to a colleague, you know, she's got to work on grappling and recognizing when people give her feedback how to receive it. Um, that would be the advice I give her. And stay with the people not everybody's going to get you, and it's okay. And the symbol for autism is is a puzzle piece. And I've done research on it because there was a family member of mine that many of my other family members believed was autistic, but there was one family member that just would not accept it. And I think there just is that part of that puzzle piece where there's just going to be people that aren't going to understand, and it's going to be okay. And I think for everybody, like I even see some of the comments, like if you're somebody that kind of liked her, you know, and you'll be more willing and open to give her grace and listen. If you already had an informed opinion about her and it was one that wasn't favorable, there's not much that she's going to be able to do to change anybody's mind. um unless you go into it with like a blank slate and just like kind of look at things in totality. I think the autism thing is also something that people made a big deal out of because Shannon Sharp made a big deal out of it, and then that's just something that people just want to harp on and harp on and harp on. um I think it is what it is. We can accept what she says or we cannot. I'm not going to tell her she needs to go to a doctor and pay money unnecessarily when to me it's clear. And I'm sure she knows herself a hell of a lot better than I do. So why should she need to do that to tell the world, oh, now I have autism, so it's true. And now I should feel good about it. I wouldn't do it. I'm telling you right now, if I was confident in who I was or something that I felt like I had, and people were telling me I don't have it, I'm not going to go and pay money for something to prove y'all wrong. No, prove y'all right. No, I'm going to keep moving and keep navigating my life. However, I'm not her. So I don't suffer with that ability to have to constantly want to prove myself right to people. And I think that's the space that therapy can help her with. And any other help she can get from a clinician to navigate life's issues and not feel so polarized and hurt, because somebody like her, there was a point in time where she just was feeling at her end, from all of the backlash she's getting.
No, I hear that. I mean, she doesn't have to prove it. She just didn't have said that she got diagnosed when she knows she didn't get diagnosed. That's what it is. If you know what I mean, it would have never been a big issue. And it's interesting, right? We're saying that Shannon made a big deal of it. I don't think he made a big deal of it. He asked her a question. He asked her a question. He asked her, "Yo, are you diagnosed?" And she said, "Yes, she diagnosed her. You know, no, are you actually diagnosed by a doctor to say that you're actually autistic?" It wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't a big deal. Someone can say that too. I don't think either of them made it a big deal personally. People made it, you know what I'm saying to you? It's until when she lied, it became a big deal. If she had never come out and addressed it, we wouldn't even know any better. That's the whole point. Like, it was questioned on the show, but nobody would have had an issue. In fact, it would have worked in her favor had she kept quiet. Because people would have said, oh, he challenged her on autism, he challenged her on racism, and nobody would have said anything. She puts her foot in it. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, I
She
guess I
puts her
just
foot in
didn't
it.
see it that she lied about it. You know, it was her understanding of it, and she clarified it when he asked her, "Did you go to a doctor?" So I didn't see like, oh, she lied. She didn't accurately represent where her diagnosis came from. But I didn't see that as, oh, she's lying. Like
That's a lie.
she's trying to deceive people.
Are you diagnosed? You know what someone's saying, Sean, when you say, are you diagnosed? You're not
Yeah,
saying,
but
did you
Coach Joe, I
self-diagnose?
just think this is where we keep doing this, and that's where the tough part is with somebody like her, is we can play word salad, and even people that aren't neurodivergent play word salad all day. Amanda does play word salad, but I don't, or like use words and play semantics. Not maybe not word salad, but uses semantics. So again, she could have been clearer, but for me personally, I don't see that as a lie. It's not like she said she was diagnosed and then now we're finding out months later from someone else other than her that it wasn't a clinical diagnosis. She explained it, she clarified what it was. She could have been clearer when talking to Shannon Sharp about, hey, I self-diagnosed myself, I did some tests, and this is why. But she made the blanket statement as if she was diagnosed by a doctor. So
I will find the clip for you on the show where she tells us straight, I'm a straight talker. Whatever I say, I meant what I said. So you can't now use that she's semanting. She's not semanticking. She says she's a straight talker. That's what she's straight. It's a lie, Sean. And it doesn't mean she's a lie. I'm not calling her a liar per se overall. I'm just saying it was a lie. I mean, it's a lie. And then you came out after and clarified it up. Have you got a diagnosis? All you had to say was, no, I'm self-diagnosed. But she left it in that space and then got angry about the fact he challenged her. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. It doesn't need to, it doesn't, we don't need to, I don't need to crush her with that particular aspect. I'm just saying that it is a lie. Like you call it what you want. Okay, maybe let's call it an omission of truth then. Let's put it that way.
yeah, no, I'm with that. And I think that's the work that she needs to continue to do, is if she wants to, make sure that she is talking about things, especially if it's a medical diagnosis that especially is new, right? And nothing that we've ever heard from her. She needs to be clear on how that comes across, because her words can mean different things to different people. And if you're trying to be clear, she's codes herself as a teacher, an educator, or coach at times. So she needs to make sure her communication is clear and effective, that everybody can understand it. And I think that's yet another opportunity for her to do. Look, I think she's got lots of stuff. There's a lot of competing things that could be going on here. Again, sometimes I wish I could have gone back and been a clinician, because a lot of these things do interest me, and I am fascinated by people and the way the mind works. And I think people's mind, it doesn't like work on a continuum. I even know for myself, hey, I'm somebody that's very direct. But does that mean Sean is direct 100% of the time? No. There are times when I could be indirect. There's times when I can be evasive. In the totality, I view myself as somebody that's direct, but I know there's times when I'm not, and sometimes it's intentionally, and sometimes it's not intentionally.
No, I definitely. I mean, I hear you, man. I mean, I'm gonna stick to the fact she lied, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, like, I'm gonna stick to it, but I'm gonna hear what you're saying, and I'm not gonna. There's a lot that I agree with in terms of, like I said, I want to hold out some grace, and you're giving her that grace, so it's appreciated that you're giving her that grace, because it means it's a balanced conversation as well. So I definitely. Definitely understand that part too, but yeah, no, I think, like I said, I think it's just it's a great opportunity for her to really kind of look at herself, really, and finally no, I don't even say finally, she looked at herself on an interview, because I know she said on another interview that she was like, oh, Jason Lee interview was much better because, he didn't question me, blah 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 blah, but I'm like, sis, you had 3 hours to talk, man. You had 3 hours to get things off your chest. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would say in that respect. You know what I mean? So for me personally, I think, I think in this situation, she should look back at it, look at the situation, and then look at where she needs to also really begin to look at herself as well, right? And look at how her behavior actually is and how it comes across, and how actually that, she actually promotes herself when she's in conversations with other people. So she just needs to be aware of that, because this will not be the last time. I can guarantee you. Because it's not going to last time. I'm not trying to necessarily lie, but I'm going to say about in terms of her patterns of behavior, it will come out again if she doesn't start learning quickly, and she'll be on the same, particular situation. You know what I'm saying to you? So, yeah, I'll definitely hear
Yeah,
that as well.
yeah. No, I think she for sure she struggles from a self-awareness perspective that's painfully obvious watching her, and also the aspect of her defense mechanisms. She can go after people, and I think those are things that don't do her service. So I think because she's neurodivergent or because she's on the autism spectrum doesn't mean she's right all the time. So, I think for anybody hearing me and kind of giving a different opinion, it doesn't mean I agree with everything she does. It doesn't mean I say because she has autism, she's
True.
right. No, I think it explains some of her behavior, and she's also a human being, so some of her flaws are going to show up 100%, and in certain instances her flaws and her personality traits and her idiosyncrasies are going to be magnified by the autism, that her autism. So I think, going after, Shannon Sharp that way, making fun of him, saying he wasn't on her level, I think that is showing she has an ego. That is showing that she's obnoxious. That is showing that she is arrogant. So, hey, some of the things and the ways that people may receive her are because of her personality. So I think for her, and I think this is where I'm able to draw empathy with her, because people in general typically struggle with admitting when they're wrong about things they don't feel they're wrong about, right?
Yeah, of
You could
course.
tell me it's 6 o'clock, and I'm like, no, it's 6:10, but then you show me the clock and the clock says 6, and I'm like, okay, I was wrong. But if you tell me, no, Sean, you're rude, I don't like the way you spoke to me, and you were wrong about your opinion on this, I'm gonna fight you because I don't think I'm wrong about it, right? Because it's something I feel passionate, and it's a feeling that I have. So I think that's where I see her. It's like the things that she feels like she's right about, she's gonna fight it tooth and nail, although she may be wrong on some of them. She might there's threads of right in the midst of some of that. Some of those people did treat her wrongly. Some of those people did isolate her for reasons having nothing to do with anything that she did. Some of them may have had some valid reasons based on the way that she treated them. So I just don't, I think sometimes we look at people in totality, right? So if you have a history of always, pissing people off, then every single instance we hear about you doing it, then you're wrong, right? We can just err on the side of, hey, history has proven itself. And I think that's the way we were taught to reason. And a lot of instances where we just have to make snap judgments to be safe in the world. But human beings are a little more dynamic. And just to land it, we saw with Monique, right? A lot of people gave her a whole lot of pushback, myself included. Oh, you're always out here talking about everybody. You're always talking about everybody. When she got on Club Shay Shay, people were able to, when she built enough story where someone was listening and they were heard, they were like, oh wow, when she was able to renegotiate and get a better deal through Netflix, people were like, oh, okay, she was speaking truth. However, Monique has some problematic things. She's got a problematic history with her son. She's got a
Hmm.
problematic history with some people in the business. So we are more likely to see her as wrong in instances versus see the right when there are instances that she's right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, hey, look, and Monique suffered at the time that she did, you know, for what she had been through, and but she also, like I said, she has her own problems with her son, right? Which is what's going to be drawn out. So I just think to myself that I definitely I think to myself that, listen, hey, look, it's very, very tough to be that way, but when you're in this industry, you got to learn how to have good relations with people. And so hopefully she learns that, because in all honesty, like, it's not a good look, the lying. You know what I mean, the shooting people after an interview, like suddenly it's not it's not that way. Someone said Monique is on the spectrum. Is that true? I don't know. So I think to myself that, yeah, there's an important lesson here, in regards to Amanda. She needs to learn how to be aware that you got to be careful how you handle situations. Yeah, someone said I saw that video about Monique. I need Monique to kill it now. I just need her to kill it a little bit. It's just, and the rants are not funny, so it's just like it just becomes jarring. So yeah, Monique needs to turn it into a joke and not make it into too many rants. We get tired, man. You know. So yeah, that's what I would say. In that regard. Any other last thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think. Listen, I've been on this journey of mine. So, unlike her, unfortunately, I don't struggle with that ability. I know that sometimes hearing certain things, people are going to be like, oh my gosh. Look, we just did a live a couple of days ago. So I saw somebody in the chat say, let's have grace for black men too. Hey, we just did a whole live and I gave a whole lot of grace to Dominique from Never Ever Met's in his situation when he interviewed with Kojo. So look, I think it just gives something to just do a little bit of unlearning, and I think that's a phase of my life that I'm in. And I think it will just help you kind of just look at things from a different perspective, sometimes challenge your own view of things and ask yourself, why am I jumping to this? Why am I thinking that way? And sometimes you'll get to a higher level, or you get to a better understanding, and also understand, like, we're always not so far apart. Sometimes we like to create distance from ourselves with people. And I think sometimes if we could just look at people and kind of, pull back a few layers and hear what somebody is saying. It doesn't say make them right, they're right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. It's understand, try to see, and I think that's a perspective I'm on. Some people will like it, some people won't. And but I just happen to think it helps you to learn more, expand your horizons, see things from a different perspective.
Yeah, appreciate that, Sean. I appreciate that, Sean, as well. And so yeah, next live will be on. I just wanted to say, audience, I don't know if you guys have seen the Priscilla and B Taylor situation. I'll probably do a live maybe later on next week when I get time. But that Priscilla and the B Taylor situation. Yo, when I did that, I told you when I did that review of Priscilla on Tim Ross, Hardly Initiated, I told you that woman is hurt. Okay, that woman is hurt. I told you guys that there's a lot of pain that she's suffering with. Okay, all right. That woman is going through it. Okay, but she's no better than the men. Okay, the very same men she was cussing out, she did the exact same thing as the men to B Taylor. Now B Taylor's aired her out. So there's a lot of things going on that sometimes I say that these people want to become these revolutionary leaders, but they don't lead in love. It's always going to lead to madness, man. When you don't want to lead in love, it's always going to lead to madness. The practitioner said no, she's on the spectrum. So yeah, and apparently she actually is on the spectrum. Actually, Princess is actually on the spectrum. So that's not.
Oh,
jokes
really?
aside. Yeah.
Then shucks. That's one I'm gonna have to work on, having some grace for Princella, because ah, she's a trip. And I don't understand how B. Taylor didn't see it, but I'm gonna try to listen. I'm gonna try to listen and have some empathy. I'm struggling though. I'm struggling.
Yeah, that one's a difficult one still, because she was going in on people. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, just Princella and B Taylor were dating apparently, and they broke up, and B Taylor just aired. Well, Princella was airing out B Taylor. B Taylor's now aired her out in a 3-hour live. So if you want to go and see it, type in B Taylor online. If you followed their situation before, if you're new to it, it's long. I won't bore you, but yeah, because my good sis, what's her name? Talk that real talk. Yanni got pulled into it, and I was like, "No, Yanni, not you, baby." You know what I'm saying? You don't let them drag you into this, baby. Stay out of the streets. But yeah, so yeah, so we're gonna bounce. Just want to say shout out to you guys. Well, listen, last little push. Listen, I got some coaching coaching spots. Listen, if you're interested in coaching, you want to maybe have some coaching around relationships, whether single, married, divorced, whatever, and you're looking for some coaching, shout me out. Listen, my diary is becoming full. I can't lie to you. Next week's booked up. I am booked up for next week. Like all 15 spots got taken. I was like, what the heck happened? So the spots are open for next week after, so the week after. So listen, if you if you want to get some coaching for myself, please get on it quickly. I foresee the snowballing, so very soon I believe my diary will be full, and it'll be a month or two before you can book. So I want you guys to jump on this as quickly as possible, because once we expand this beyond just my YouTube and I connect with other people, I believe it will definitely, I'll have my diary completely full, and I want you guys to get the fullness first. You guys deserve it. You stayed with me for a very long time. You've been on my YouTube for a very long time. You supported the family for a long time. You've been Mineral Gang for a very long time. I want you guys to get the early doses as much as possible, right? So listen, if you're looking out for coaching, shout it out. Click on the link down below in the description box. You can literally just click on my calendar, and then you can fill yourself in quickly. All right, and there's no fee per se that is set. I'm just asking people to pay whatever they feel the session is worth. Okay, so whatever you feel it's worth, okay, right? You pay that amount, all right? So don't be afraid. I appreciate you guys, and God bless you guys who've obviously booked. Listen, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? The Lord is doing a good work. We're moving, Sha. So I appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. Much appreciation. Bye-bye.